that was with that moment. Anyway,
See, the thing is, you have all the power of whether or not that stays in the podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dancing for Architecture podcast,
what's up?
where we make podcast and talk about music, but mainly make podcast.
Yes, sir. I'm excited for today's episode. We're talking about actually before we say what we're talking about, hit up that link of the day. I mean, it's pretty related to the album, and it's pretty. I don't know how to describe it. You know.
Yeah, I'd say that the best is actually no, literally, it's just a rip of Michael Jackson's greatest hits to YouTube. I don't
Yeah,
know how it hasn't gotten taken down yet.
that is true. I mean, you basically told him what the link was on.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, you
legit.
should still, you should still click the link though.
Yes, but today we're talking about Thriller by Michael Jackson, like quintessential album right here.
I'm surprised that I've gotten this far in life without just listening all the way through it because I've heard most of the tracks beforehand, but I'm
Man,
surprised that I went this long without actually listening through the whole thing.
this I can say with confidence that if you're listening right now, you have heard at least two songs on this album, like at least,
At least. I
at
I
least,
can I can attest to that.
and those at least are Thriller and Billie Jean. If I know you've heard more probably, but like you've at least heard those. Like I know you have.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this album, it has elements of funk, disco, rock, pop, like danceable songs. It was at number one on Billboard Hot 100 for 37 weeks.
Dang.
That's insane. It won 8 Grammys.
Eight?
It's yes, it's insane, bro. It's
Yeah.
insane.
It's like I know that this is like one isn't this the greatest selling album of all time, if I
Yes,
remember correctly?
66 million copies.
Yeah, it's absolutely nutty. Where it's like, I think about all of the albums that I've seen like music nerds freak out over, and I've never really seen people dive super in depth to this album, and I think that's part of why I just never gotten around to listening to it, because a lot of my circles on the internet are like Anthony Fantano type people, where they're just like, oh yeah, this cult indie rock album
Right.
that's super freaking good, and I'm just like, okay, I'll listen to that, but I don't think to listen to the pop albums that have come out over the years that have sold really well and why they sell really well and stuff. But yeah, after listening to through this album, just this album for the first time, my overall impressions is just kind of like, dang, this is really good stuff right here.
Yeah, and I can imagine like obviously I wasn't born in the 80s, but from what I've seen, from documentaries and videos, like this thing was is a cultural phenomenon, but was just like insane. Like this was pop culture at its peak.
Yeah, and I just think of all of the different people who were on this album because like this was after Off the Wall, which was a pretty big hit. Like that album did very well, but Michael Jackson was like, "Nah, I want to make this spread to as many people as possible." So the two big names that popped on this record that would have been household names at the time was Eddie Van Halen and Paul McCartney. And
And Quincy Jones.
yeah, wasn't he more big because of his success with Michael Jackson as opposed to the other way around?
No,
Or
no, no. Like Quincy, he teamed up with Michael for Off the Wall, but Quincy Jones, like he, is a really big producer, worked with Frank Sinatra. Um, you
oh
know,
shoot.
he composed for a bunch of movies. Like yeah, but he's also big as well. So that just adds to the big names on here. Just a bunch of writers from Toto on here. They got just James Ingram, like just all-star cast, not cast, but group of
Yeah, no, I
people.
get what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this album is larger than life itself. This album has a reputation that I definitely had a certain expectation going into this album of like, okay, if this sold that well, it had all of these big names on it, it's gotta be good. And let me tell you, I was not disappointed.
Yes, very very good. I actually just want to hop right in because we could go about the hype. Everyone's heard of the album, but like the tracks themselves speak for themselves. Like listen to the album.
Yeah, definitely do. In fact, listen to the album. But let's start off with Wanna Be Startin' Something, the opening track that is Startin' Something. It's Startin' Thriller.
Yes,
That was a
and
bad joke.
yeah. All right, yeah. Wanna be starting something is a good start to this album. I mean, it. I have a really funny memory with this song. So I had this game on the Wii called Michael Jackson Experience. It's
Hmm.
basically like Just Dance, but for Michael Jackson songs. And oh man, I that game is what introduced me to like all the Thriller songs and got it ingrained in my mind. But like, yo, I used to go in on that, bro. Like, you know how in Just Dance they have the moves, like the golden moves, and you got to do the right moves, you get the points. Like 10 seconds 10 seconds in, I would be doing the moves, and then after that, I would just be going on my own, like, me and my
Yeah.
brother would just be dancing to the song and, like, get, like, 0 points, but swinging our Wii remotes on the string, like, hitting stuff, but that's just a funny memory.
You are literally what they warned against in the
Yes.
pre before the ads, where it's like, don't swing your Wii remote around, and you're just like, nah, I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna swing my Wii remote around.
It's just some heat, bro, like, like, it gets
Yeah.
you right in.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think what's really cool about this track to me is the way it kicks off of this album as a whole, where one thing I really admire about this album is its sequencing. It's like for a lot of pop albums, it doesn't matter what track you start with, it doesn't matter what track you end with. You just kind of listen straight through. Like you can shuffle and it doesn't really make a difference. But for this one, for this album, the sequencing is really solid. You have a lot of really cool transitions between tracks. You have a lot of cool, like, sort of emotional moments comparatively throughout the album. And we'll get into that a little bit further. But this track just really well starts off the album. And I love the way that this track never settles down. It's always the major one to the major two, that sort of chord progression throughout the whole song, and like that is just like a super unsteady kind of like get amped up type chord progression that's constantly building. So like you're just kind of getting amped up for the whole album. And also, is he saying you're a vegetable?
Bro,
I
I was gonna talk about like he says that, and to this day, like I didn't think he was actually saying you're a vegetable, but I'm like, yo, what? Like I looked at so many commentaries and nobody, they're just like, yeah, he just says that. I'm like, okay, well, he's Michael Jackson, so why not? I'm a vegetable.
Yeah. I I think the lyric is like, "You're a vegetable. Do they hate you? You're a vegetable." So it might be a comment on like eating your greens or something, even though you hate it. It's
Yeah.
necessary.
And it's weird because like the narrative of the song is like, oh, people twisting his words, spreading rumors, like trying to start stuff. And then he says you're a vegetable. Like, is that an insult? I don't know, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like I think if it's like people twisting his words, maybe it's just like the biggest curveball in the world.
Yeah, bro, you can't twist these. Bro, that could be it. Like he says something so left field that like, yo, yeah, try to twist that into something.
Yeah, you can't twist a carrot.
Yeah, bro.
That's all I'm gonna say is you can't twist a carrot. But yeah, let's go on to the next track because yes, solid start. And then the next track, "Baby Be Mine." Um, so coming off of the last album we listened to for the podcast, "Baby I Miss You," like this totally feels like it would super fit sampled on a future funk album.
For sure, yeah. Like this era was prime for vaporwave. Like
Yeah,
these funky type samples, and I don't know, maybe there is a vaporwave Baby Be Mine out there. Somebody if they find that, let us know. But yeah, this song is really just a vibe, you know. It's
yeah,
yeah, what do you think of it?
yeah. No, I just kind of a solid groove all around. I really like the bridge vocals. Like For me, I had just kind of heard growing up, "Oh, Michael Jackson's one of the greatest singers of all time," and, like, I had never really thought a whole lot about it, but just listening to this album, like, you have some singers that sing with emotion, and you have some singers that are just technically proficient.
Hmm.
Michael Jackson is the best of both. Like, there's a lot of emotion in the way that he sings, but, like, also, he's, like, hitting notes really well, like, even when he's getting more into the vocal line, he's still staying very in tune, and it's just, like, really a joy to listen to, and this I think that this track really exemplifies that quite a bit, especially on the bridge. Um
Yeah. Like, have you heard his raw vocals? Like those things. If you look at like an analysis of it, like I was looking at a video of someone his raw vocals into a production session, and those things are like nailing the pitch, like barely any waivers in pitch at all. And there's like not big pitch correction stuff back then like we
Yeah,
have
no, for
today.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like it's crazy because, like, any deviation is stylistic.
right.
And I just have so much respect for that, and his overall delivery is just insane, and I think that this track just kind of exemplifies that very well and sets the tone for the rest of the record as far as that goes. The horns on this track are really good. The horns through the whole album are just so good, whether they're synthesized or whatever, like, they just sound so nice.
Yeah. Baby, you gotta be mine. Anyway, so on to Girl Is Mine. So two all-star, like when you think of, big artists, right? You think, okay, Beatles, right? That when
Mhm.
you think that in your brain, it's like, yo, this dude got Paul McCartney, right? And there's not many features on here, but to have a feature and that be like Paul McCartney, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's a note that I wrote down. Paul freaking McCartney got onto this record, and I love the vocal synergy between the two of them, where it's like they both have very smooth voices on this track. Um, and it's just solid duet writing as a whole. Like the way that the different melodies work together and the harmonies, and where they choose between having one person sing a line or both of them singing together and like all that stuff. It's just really solid all the way through.
Yeah, and
Um,
I love the dialogue of, this narrative of, "Oh, we want the same girl," and then there's just this whole section of them talking like, this girl's actually mine." Nah, like, did she say that? No, like they're just having a whole conversation, and then
yeah.
I love what Paul McCartney like when
I don't
yeah,
believe
I
it.
don't believe it, my. I'm like, yo, this is
Yeah, I had
tough.
that exact thing written down.
I
It's
don't
just so
believe
freaking dope.
it.
Like, and it's just clear that they had such a good time recording this track. Like, you can just hear the just overall enjoyment of recording music with the other. Like it's just you can like I don't know, like you can just feel the good vibes on this track, and I dig the good vibes.
Yeah, and actually one of the interviews, somebody asked, "Oh, what was your favorite song to make to Michael?" And he's like, "Oh, Girl Is Mine, hands down," because they said they were just cracking jokes the whole time, throwing stuff at each other. Like that just sounds like a vibe, and you could
Yeah,
hear it in the music.
yeah, they're just having a good time, and then yeah, and then that is a completely different tone than the next track, Thriller.
Oh man, the Halloween anthem, bro. Like this song is to Halloween what All I Want for Christmas Is You is to Christmas, bro. Every year it re-enters the Hot 100, just like how Mariah Carey does.
Yeah, it's like you see it starting in September. It's starting Thriller time.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, funny story about this track. So back in high school, I was a part of a drama club, right? And we were doing this play, and it was a meta play, but basically there was a musical number in the middle of the play, and since it's a play within a play kind of type beat, it was supposed to be extremely ironic, and the song that we did was Thriller. And I don't know if I remember the dances or the choreography, but it was the funniest thing ever. Like, you just have all these just kids who just do drama club. Like don't like we don't even have like a theater program where it's like with like musicals and stuff. It was literally just drama club kids doing the Thriller dance. And this song is just ingrained in my memory as that, or it's just like I'm just like I can't really listen to it without thinking that was a fun play to put on.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because this song has been parodied so many times. Like you got the Shrek tribute, you got the Annoying Orange one, you got a whole Minecraft song, you have an Indian Thriller. Like there's if you look up Thriller parody on YouTube, you will just see pages and pages. So it's
Yeah,
definitely an iconic song.
hyper iconic. But overall, the music on this track, I think that the production for the album really stands out on this track specifically. So, first off, the way that everything builds very slightly, where you just get more and more instruments being added in, and it never feels like there's any big moment where it just kind of starts being big. It just feels like everything's building up to the chorus. And also, just sort of the atmospheric sounds going on throughout the whole song. It's just a really well produced track as a whole.
Right.
I just love the production on this. Like it's insane.
You definitely see it as a sign of the times as well because around the 80s you know you see the heavy synths and you know that was the introduction into that electronic era and so this is a masterful representation of that and yeah it's just really catchy um yeah you just want to
It,
do that iconic dance you know
yeah, you want to do the iconic Thriller moment.
yeah
But one thing I want to bring up is just how weird this track is and the fact that it's a hit. So, first off, the runtime, it's nearly 6 minutes.
yeah which is really odd for a pop song but it works.
And like for the MTV thing, I don't even ever think that they cut it down. Like they played the whole six
Whole
minute
thing,
music
bro.
video, and
Yeah.
the bit at the end, the poetry bit of like the spooky Halloween thing, very freaking weird. Like it's just there's no reason that this song should be as successful as it is, but it exists as one of the most iconic pop culture moments of all time.
Yeah, at least, like, content-wise, it makes 0 sense, but, you know, the song itself is it's some heat, but, like, if you actually listen to what's happening, it's like, What?"
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling, and I think that that's really cool, and it really shows just how good it is. Like, sometimes you'll get something that's sort of slightly weird pop into the public consciousness for a little bit, and it's, like, overall just kind of like, yeah, like, this kind of weird thing exists, but it generally exists as in terms of, like, a viral YouTube video, and people forget about it. But this, it's just become like a pillar of pop culture, and a lot of things like a lot of the production like you had said, like the synths and stuff, carried over into forward into the rest of pop culture for that decade, and even through into the rest of the century for a little bit as well.
Yeah, but there's so much I wanna say about Thriller, but I'm gonna move on to Beat It, which is another iconic dance. Like, he just well, we're gonna get into the guitar solo, but, like, this video is just, like, iconic. You got the 2 gangs, they're just, like, acting all tough, and then, you know, they get into this knife fight or whatever, and then all of a sudden, Michael just comes in, breaks up the fight, and everyone starts dancing. Like, I'm just like, "Hey, yo," and they're just hitting that, you know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yo.
But the transition from Thriller to Beat It, I wanna highlight that for a second. So I know how I had kind of mentioned that Thriller's thematically kind of weird, but it works really well transitioning into Beat It because you kind of get that clock striking thing going at the beginning of Beat It, where it's just like it still feels kind of creepy, and then you get it, and then it just breaks into this like really sick guitar intro, and it's just like, ooh, that's nice. And like I just love these two tracks next to each other. It's just brilliant.
And it's crazy to me how they can get these simple, like, grooves, like the boot, 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 and make just, like, expand on it because that's, like, a simple drum beat. Even on Billie Jean, you got the like, that's simple, but the way he just gets in that pocket and, like, even the guitar, he can expand on that simple beat so well.
Yeah, it's very, very good example of less is more.
Right.
Like this is day one of drum class. That's the first thing you learn. The first thing you learn is boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats and. But for here, like you can just like see how it created such an iconic song because even the guitar part's not that complex either. But overall, you just have this production and this really simple instrumentation, and it gets a little bit more complex the further into the song
Yeah,
you
so
get.
that solo that solo,
That
though.
solo,
Guess who's on the solo?
Mr. Van Halen himself, the man, the myth, the legend, one of the greatest guitarists of all time,
It's
Eddie Van Halen.
disgusting, bro. It's disgusting. Like, ah, the the harmonics, the pure musicality in that solo, you know?
Yeah, and the overall awareness of he had like I don't know 16 bars to work with, right? And he the um the amount of emotional expression he put in those 16 bars, like where you had like the build up to the solo, where it's just kind of like a break in like all of the action, and then he just comes out swinging. And I don't know, like this solo is just such a good example of being technically proficient while not being show offy because like every bit of that solo sounds really good and every bit of it is like equally technically impressive. It's just so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one of those solos you could sing along to, but it's
Maybe
definitely
you
one.
can't.
But it's definitely one that like you do that air guitar, the head banging, like you're in your socks at home, like that's
Yeah,
vibes.
yeah. And overall I feel like the lyrical content of this song is probably honestly the song that sticks out the most to me out of the whole album where it's like yeah, like you gotta be a bigger man and like either just yeet on out of there. Like it's like being right isn't that big of a deal is overall kind of the point where it's like if someone gonna murk you, like you don't there's no being right doesn't mean anything if you're dead kind of type beat.
Right.
And like I think about how forward thinking that was because like you have a lot of different stuff popping up in pop culture today or not pop culture and mainstream culture about get rid of toxic masculinity, this idea that you need to prove that you're the bigger man and like hide your emotions and stuff. But he's like, no, like you can literally just get killed if you're trying to prove you're a man too much or whatever. And like I don't know, like I think that that's really crazy and forward thinking on this album.
Yeah, and that was a big part of his ideologies as well, just the anti-violence stuff. And yeah, it was really cool how it came out on this track.
Yeah. But let's get on to the next track. I think that this is the certified
Yo,
thick
yo, yo, yo,
groove.
yo, yo, before we even get to this track, bro, this comes on at a party. You hear that? Boom, 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 boom. Yo, you about to hit that on the dance floor, bro?
Yo, you know it. You freaking know it. Like it's like so for just kind of our general calls, like pretty much every call that we are on when we're just kind of like sitting there and we've run out of things to talk about and we're just vibing, like one of us will just start with and then we'll hit the bass line and then we'll just like start singing Billie Jean for no reason every freaking time without fail.
Yeah, it's funny how that goes.
Yeah, it's and it just goes to show how iconic the song is where it's just like it just pops up pretty much every phone call we're on.
It's just like this. It's so iconic, and it's funny how it was actually made. So Michael Jackson, he was driving on the boulevard in his Rolls Royce, and he was taking a break from recording for the album, and then he just hears that bass line in his head. He's like, doom 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 doom, doom, and then you just get the beat, and then the chord, the dun dun, and thinks of the whole song on his ride there. And apparently he gets pulled over and his car's on fire and he doesn't even notice. I'm like, yo, that's an epic story. But
That is honestly the distracted artist at its finest. Like the idea of like an artist that's so invested in their work that they just don't notice things. Like he was just so far in there that he just kind of missed. Oh, my car's on fire. This song is so fire that it set my car on fire.
Bro, that bass line is just so good. Like when I think of legendary bass lines, I think of Billie Jean, I think of Money, like I think of I don't know, what do you think of?
Yeah, I think those two songs for sure. What else is there? Um, no other ones really come to my head immediately. There's probably other ones. Comment below other iconic bass lines.
Yeah, I'd love to know some iconic ones.
We'll just be talking about the last track, and just be like, "There's that other song that's equally as iconic," and you're gonna be like, we've moved on from that by now."
Yeah, bro. Yeah, but definitely put it in the comments.
Yes, and yeah, just overall, this is just such a solid track. Like it's just kind of grooves really hard. It's definitely the certified thick track of this
Yeah.
album.
And I want to comment on the actual what this is talking about because I don't think anyone really notices unless
Hmm.
they, sit. It kind of reflects the fear that famous people have of, someone coming to them and saying, "This is your child." And
Hmm.
so that actually happened to him. Some lady said, "Oh, one of my twins is yours." And it wasn't, but like that happened to his brothers a lot when he was in the Jackson 5.
Hmm.
But that big like, yo, when you're living that lifestyle on the road, doing dumb stuff, somebody
Hmm.
will come knock on your door like, "Yo, this is your son," and they'll have your. He even has a lyric in there like, "Oh, they have your eyes" or something. So that was interesting to me how he has this groove and he's just talking about.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was this idea of like where it was about specifically being famous and that being a fear. I thought it was just like oh yeah, don't knock up any chicks type beat.
Right.
Like I thought it was just generally like, yeah, like you could just kind of get caught doing dumb stuff. But like the fact that it's in specifically in reflection to being famous, where it's just like, oh yeah, not only do I not want to have to deal with the consequences of this action socially, like with the other person, but I also don't want to have to deal with my PR getting plummeted by something like this.
Right. It probably also is general, but I even thinking about the iconic video where he's like dancing and the path he steps on is like lighting up. Definitely check out all the videos that are on this album: Thriller, Billie Jean. There's one more, Beat It.
Beat
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I was going to go watch all the videos before the podcast episode today, but then I started doing songwriting. So I was just like, but yeah, definitely go check them out. They're all like I've seen a couple of the videos. I've seen the Beat It video a few times and I've probably seen the Thriller video once or twice. But yeah, his choreography is insane. Like that's the other thing about Michael Jackson that we don't cover just by listening to the album is just how good of a dancer he was.
Oh, there's literally no way for us to like exemplify how musical like I can't even try to explain it.
Dancing for Architecture moment.
Yeah, bro.
Literally dancing, talking about dancing on a podcast called Dancing for Architecture.
What?
What?
But yeah, let's move on to human nature. So
This
it's
song
a
gives me major Christmas song vibes.
Christmas song vibes. Yeah, it's definitely a really cool ballad, and the first thing that stands out to me is the progression. So it's really weird, like the use of the major third in there, but
Hmm.
it keeps it like what you were saying with what was it? Want to be starting something where the progression like keeps it going.
Hmm.
It has this weird eerie like I don't know how to describe it, but it gives me like a Dorian feel. Like I don't know.
Yeah. No, this is a track that I was just kind of mentally in my head still about how good Billie Jean was while I was listening to this and taking notes. Like that's kind of sort of towards the end of the album. I was just like, yo, these two really good tracks in the middle that I just really clearly remember. But yeah, this track was just kind of a solid, nice wind down for me. I like the way that these last few tracks just kind of sort of wind down the album after you get this kind of explosive middle.
Yeah, and a really interesting fact about this, two things. So it was written by Steve Porcaro from Toto.
Hmm.
And second thing is Michael Jackson himself played that part on the synth, one take, no punches, no repairs, no sequencers or time correction. 7 minutes, perfect performance. I was like, yo, I didn't even know he played, you know?
Yo, that's crazy. I never ceases to amaze me. It's crazy, bro. Like that's just mind boggling. The idea that you just kind of sit down, done, and it's just like perfect. That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, bro. He just hit that.
Yeah, yeah. But overall, pretty darn good track. And let's go on to P.Y.T.
Yep. So this one definitely has its 80s pop roots, the funk,
Yeah,
just the whole mix, you know?
yeah. It definitely kind of like this track is a little bit thinner than some of the other stuff on the album, where it's just kind of like you have the groove, but the instrumentation isn't super over the top like you have on some of the earlier tracks. And I think that that's really cool because it almost feels like it's a reflection of sort of, I don't know, more the aesthetic of Off the Wall. Like I haven't listened to much of Off the Wall, the album before this one, but I've heard Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, and I don't know, this song just feels like it would fit really well on that album.
Yeah, and just the hook itself, and something that happens a lot in this album is the call and response. So you get this, I want to love you, P.Y.T, and DLC. Like this whole call and response thing really makes his songs interactive and singable. Like,
Yeah,
what
no,
else?
for sure.
Where else does he do it? He does it in, I guess, Beat It. Technically, Beat
Yeah, he
It.
also does it a little bit in You Want to Be Starting Something. Like it kind of has that sort of vibe. I think the background vocals on this whole album, like it's something I haven't really pointed to, but they're just insanely good. Like they never feel cut pasted from another song idea wise. They always feel like they're designed and recorded to really really fit the mood of the album. And sometimes it's harmonies, sometimes it's just like sung chords, sometimes it's just like they're so creative and they're just really well done on every track. Like I feel like each track is made by the background vocals as much it is by anything else.
Right. And oh, another fun fact. Oh, and speaking of background vocals for this, I don't know if you remember that little that pitched up thing. He's like, I wanna
Yeah,
yeah, that was really cool to me. And his sisters, Latoya Jackson and Janet. I said Jeanette, what in the world? Janet
Jeanette.
Jackson. Janet Jackson. Yeah, they had some backgrounds on here. I had to
Oh
throw
yeah, is
those.
that in the is that in that middle part in the breakdown part?
It's like the na 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 na.
Oh yeah, that part. So
Yeah.
that part, I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on in the vocals. That's where the bass line really stuck out for me on this song. That bass line on that breakdown spot, whew, that's tasty. Thick.
Yeah, bro. Like you can't see me, but I'm just like imagining the song in my head and like grooving. You know, you have a good album when you can recall the song by just looking at the name and be like, "Dang, wait!" And you're grooving and not even listening to the
Yeah,
song.
I just kind of picture you just air basing, like sitting in your chair with just kind of a little smirk on your face, just kind of like bobbing your head back and forth, just doing this air bass thing. Like I can picture it in my head.
Yeah, bro. But I guess to close out, was the lady in my life. So this is the song that I've probably heard the least. I
Hmm.
probably only heard this like once or twice in my whole life. But yeah, it's a solid soulful ballad to end the album off.
Yeah, just kind of a solid closing track. Overall, not much to say about it. I think it definitely serves its purpose very well as a closing track because yeah, like I said, the sequencing on this album is really good. So like especially like the last three tracks, I love the way that it just kind of winds it down, and then the lady in my life just kind of closes it out, and you're just like, okay, this is sort of vibely. Whereas with a lot of the other love songs on this record, you don't have that sort of sense of permanence that the lyrics of this one do, which I thought was kind of cool. Where it was like this idea of you'll be my girl forever or whatever. Whereas like the other ones were just kind of like, yeah, like this is a girl that I'm into right now. Like I think that it's kind of fitting where the last song is the song that has the most sense of permanence to it.
Right, and, commonly in pop songs, that whole, "Oh, this is the girl that I'm into right now," is usually, like, the banger hit, the one with, like, the good beat, because 'cause you're not paying
Mhm.
attention to the lyrics. You're just like, "Oh, shoot, beat it? Oh, no, that's a bad example. Oh, shoot, maybe be mine?" Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just kind of like, oh shoot, this is just kind of a banger, and you're not really paying attention. But for this one, it's just like a lot slower, and it's just like, okay, like really almost like listening to the picture that's being painted there, where it's just like a lot more intimate, if you will, where it's like a lot less like off the cuff, like at a party, more like, okay, like this is like a Friday night between a couple that's been together for a couple years, I imagine. You
right.
know, like that's kind of the vibe that I get from this one.
Yeah, and obviously you wouldn't play Human Nature or Lady in My Life at, like, a dance party, but they're just solid ballads that and they're it's like we're saying they're, good dying down songs, but his like low is someone else's like high.
Hmm.
So they're all really good. And that's an
Yeah,
understatement.
yeah. This album as a whole just kind of a banger across the board.
Yeah, and it's weird saying like there's just no way to describe it without you listening to it and getting. Oh, one little note about Billie Jean. So the that song, he performed it at a 25 anniversary of Motown, and that's what cemented his moonwalk. He first did the moonwalk at the performance, and obviously he didn't like invent it, but that's what like that signature, that's where it came from. And I thought I'd mention that because
That's
Michael
what cemented
Jackson,
it as his.
his thing, yeah. He hit that and everyone was like, yo, he's sliding.
Yo,
But
my
yeah,
man do be sliding though.
I thought I'd mention that just because Michael Jackson moonwalk.
Yeah. But overall, what's your rating of the album as far as overall vibes of it? I'd say for me, it's like definitely glad that I gave this classic that I hadn't really taken a chance to listen to. Definitely glad I gave it a listen.
Yeah, it's definitely a lifelong. This is one of those soundtracks of my life albums.
Hmm.
Just ones that how there are those songs that you don't sit down to go and listen to, but you've heard like a million times. Um,
Yeah,
Definitely Billie Jean, Beat It, Thriller. Like you hear at parties, you hear at everywhere. You hear it in movies and stuff. So I think in terms of rating, like I would give an ambitious 10, but like I don't know about the numbers, but
yeah. We never we're like, what would you rate it? And then we give some arbitrary description of out of 10.
yeah,
It
we
it never
say
fails.
did what it set out to do out of 10.
Yeah, it's just kind of a banger out of 10 for me.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, really listen to you probably heard like half of these songs, but listen to this album, bro, like all the way through.
Mm.
It's a vibe. It's a vibe.
It's pretty scrumdiddlyumptious, I must say.
Yes, sir. But with that being said, you might as well go follow the Instagram. Like,
Yeah,
you might as well do that. You might as well watch the link of the day. You might as well listen to the album.
yeah. And you might as well comment below what album you want us to cover next. For we are getting close to 10 episodes, which is pretty hype. I believe this is episode 6, right?
Yep, yep. This is episode 6.
So we're gonna finish out these first 10 episodes, and that'll be the end of our quote unquote first season. And we have some surprises in store for you for season 2.
Yep, yep. But keep sending those suggestions, and yeah.
Yeah, I will catch you guys later next time. See ya. All that good jazz.
Shamoon,
Shimon.
Shamoon. All right. I think that's
That'll do it.